Hi guys, welcome to day 13 of Quiltmas. I'm having a great time and I hope you enjoyed yesterday's sewing studio tour. I completely forgot to show you how I store thread, so jump over to the community page to see a few pictures of my thread storage. Like everything else, is super simple. I'll link it below, and if you're enjoying the videos, don't forget to subscribe and ring that little bell so you'll be notified for the next one. My countdown to Christmas box opening is at the end with my, as always, honest reaction. Stay around to see how it goes. Today, we'll talk binding, so on with the show. I got several questions and requests to show how I am binding these little mini art interpretation quilts. I'm just using a straight corner binding method, and here's a little demo. This is straight corner binding. It's how I learned to bind. I'm not sure why I learned this way. Maybe I read it in a book, maybe it's what I was used to seeing, maybe I made it up because I didn't know how to do anything else. I honestly couldn't tell you, but turns out this has been around for hundreds of years, so here we go. This works best with a single fold binding, which is what I'm using today. So it's just one strip of fabric. I'm not going to fold it in half. It will work with double fold, but the corners get very bulky, especially if you're working on a small project. So, you know, your mileage may vary on that. Do what you want. So you just need 4 strips that are long enough to go around your piece. All right, mine are 1.5 inches wide. Use a wider strip if you want a wider binding frame. The part that shows, if you want it to be wider, you know, just use a wider strip. It's not rocket science. I just go by feel, and this is what works for me. This is a piece that I made after sitting in on a Jackie Gehring class. I don't know how well you can see the quilting on it, but it is intense and it's really flat, so I'm not even going to worry about trimming any edges. I'm just going to use my regular quilting foot. Like I say, this is very flat and stable, so it's not going to matter. I'm not going to take the time to switch to a walking foot, but feel free to do whatever you're comfortable with. And I'm sewing by a mark on my sewing machine, which is around 1/4 inch. Doesn't really matter. It's a matter of what you prefer. My thread is caught somewhere. It's making a noise. Now I'm going to work the opposite side and attach a binding on that side, just the front. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this away from the work, and then I'm going to trim it right at the edge of the quilt. I should grab my bigger scissors, but these are handy. I'm just going to trim it right here. Right at even with the edge. Even-ish with the edge. Ish. You could take it to your cutting table on the rotary cutter if you wanted, but for today, this is what I'm doing. It's going to work fine. Don't worry about it. Then what I will do eventually, because I will finish this by hand, is I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to fold it back like this and tuck it all the way under. Now you can finish this piece, you can finish this by machine if you want, you know, run your ditch stitch right across the front. And I did that on the last art piece, the Mark Rothko piece, but, oh, let me show you. Let me show you. It's not great. I mean, I was in a hurry. I could have gotten better results by pinning and gluing it down even, but honestly, I just prefer the finish by hand because I like to do handwork. But before I can do that, what I will do to get the other pieces on is you gotta take these corners and get them, and I know the world may stop spinning on its axis. She's gonna use a pen, boys and girls. But you have to pin this corner down. I'm gonna pin a little further away. You know what? I lied. I'm not gonna use a pen. I'm gonna use a clip because it'll hold it flatter and I can use it further away. So I'm gonna use a clip right here to make sure this piece stays tucked in. I'm going to do that on all four corners. All right, the middle part right here doesn't matter quite yet. I'll just tuck and fold that and clip it and stitch it as I go. You can tuck and fold it now and press it if you want. I just don't bother. No reason, I just can't be bothered. So I'll just catch all four of my corners. And you see, I just folded it and tucked it all the way back. Just like that. And I'll clip it. Again, I'm just going to fold it over and tuck it in like this. Easy peasy. Not complicated. If it's complicated, I tend to not do it at all. Now what I'm going to do is go back to the front, and I'm going to, on this strip, this cross strip, I'm going to leave a little bit of edge so that we have room to tuck it in. That clip can just stay there. It's not going to get in the way of my foot, hopefully. No, it's not. And I'm just going to line up and sew straight down this side. I'm going to leave some extra at the other end as well. When I get to this other end, I'm going to double check, see my corner has come a little bit unfolded. I'm going to double check that that's still tucked under and then stitch right off. And I'll repeat the process on the other side. Check that corner, make sure it's tucked in tight. Stitch right off. Now I can take my clips off. Now I will press this side away from the edge so I have a nice clean edge. And the other side. Double check that corner, make sure it's tucked in tight. And stitch right off. Now I can take my clips off. Now I will press this side away from the edge so I have a nice clean edge. And the other side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave not quite a half an inch overhang right here. And I'll show you the magic of this method. Same on both sides. Maybe a centimeter, which is not quite half an inch. All four corners, same dealio. Leave about a centimeter overhang. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it to the back. This is my unfinished piece that I will finish by hand at a later time. I'm going to flip it to the back, and on this corner I'm going to take this part that's hanging over and turn it inside. Then I'm going to flip and flip. And my dog's going to flip out and bark at the delivery guy. Alright, and I'll clip that corner. I'll show you that again. So you've got this, here's my raw edge. I've got the overhang. I'm just going to wrap it to the inside and then fold this to the edge and fold it again. And I'll clip that corner. And I'm going to clip kind of right on that corner so it holds it down, because I will finish this by hand later. If you're finishing it by machine, you can go ahead and press this down. You can go ahead and press this down if you want. I don't, because I tend to get a little tuck right there. I have better results if I'm just manipulating the fabric by hand. One more time. Flip to the inside. That's the front. Here's the back. We're going to wrap that corner. We're going to fold this top part to the edge of the quilt and down. And you can give yourself a little leeway if you need to cover up that very edge. It's very flexible. You just go with what works, you know. There aren't any rules. I don't know, we get used to seeing something, double fold binding. Here we go. Wrap, fold, and fold again. And see, my fold doesn't come quite to the edge, so I'll give it a little more room. It's hard to see. Give it a little more room and cover up that edge and just clamp the dickens out of that corner. We get used to seeing double fold binding, mitered binding, and we think that's the way it's supposed to be done, the way that it has to be done, the way that it's always been done. None of those things are true. Mitered binding is beautiful, it's easy, it works, it's sort of what's in vogue right now, but until, I don't know, well, the quilts that I remember growing up with did not have miter binding. They had this single fold binding, or as a southern quilt, more often than not, they had the backing wrapped to the front and finished in this manner. Single fold binding, because fabric was expensive. Fabric is expensive. You know, there wasn't another quarter of a yard to waste in the binding. So, you know, your mileage may vary. This is great for wall hangings, for small projects, really for any quilt. Like I say, this is how I finished the first quilts I made, and they're fine. They work great. They look beautiful. It's super quick and easy. I will finish this by hand, but it is easy to finish by machine. You just tuck it in. You can use a little Elmer's glue. You can put a couple of clips in. I'm just going to stitch it down, or you can stitch it by machine. It's very neat, it's very clean, it's very easy to get a perfect corner. My mitered corners are always jacked, always, but that's how I like life. So it all works out, and that's it. That's as simple as it is. That's it. That's all there is to it, and it's great for small projects, like I say. And here I am, look, see, there's my thread hanging. Hand stitching the backing down super quick. It really works for any quilt. You know, I said we get in the habit of seeing or doing things one way, and there are many ways that work. There are no rules that say your quilt must have XYZ type of binding. Do what works for you with the supplies that you have. I saw Gwen Marston, the great Gwen Marston, demonstrating this technique several years ago on the quilt show. And honestly, until I saw her do it again, I had forgotten about it. And now I use it a lot. I'll link it down below. The demo starts at about 51 minutes. The whole episode is great though. Hang around for the box opening, and I'll be right back to see us out. Quilty Advent Box, Day 13. Sewing edge. Oh, these are great. This is so you can, here I'll show you on the back. So, can you see? You can get a really accurate quarter inch seam. It's a little strip that sticks to your machine and won't leave residue, but it'll give you a little ridge. I don't know if you can see. It's kind of thick. It gives you a little ridge to run your fabric against. Very handy. Thank you. Day 13. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on Quiltmas Day 13. Let's chat in the comments. Tell me what your favorite binding method is. Single fold, double fold, mitered, this version, bias. What do you choose and why? I'm excited to find out. Please click all the buttons, like, subscribe, share, and please don't forget that you make the world more beautiful just by being in it. I'm Amy, and I'll see you next time.